Well, they have a hybrid.
Bill Quest owns one.
He does, he likes it, but that, you just say, ah.
If you wait, it's like the Pinto came out, when I was a Pinto. You can get a Pinto. They look really good. You can get a Pinto.
My wife's always.
I have to.
I think.
I have to. The yellow hatchback. You can get in the back of the room.
You can drive it right. You can drive it right. Ricky's gonna be like, how do you have that? You don't pull them anywhere.
Your son just came by to check me for dollars where you said.
Yeah, and the side by side, well, of course he did. He had one.
Ran into the garage.
Oh. And that's when out to dinner. Even though I already been there, it was wrong.
Just there. I don't know my lights on. But I don't want you to.
Tuesday is our, tomorrow's our last day there. And we're closed Thursday, Friday, Monday. And then we start back at the new building on Tuesday. My drive is quite
Shops up there.
But it's harder, like where we're at now, it's easy to get into. So we have Walmart right now, and we have those there. We can walk down our 15-minute break to Wawa, we can walk to Dollar Tree on our 15-minute break. We're not gonna walk anything in that. Yeah, but we can walk like 15 minutes. Lisa's like, I time it every time. 8 minutes one way, 8 minutes the other way. So that's 16 minutes right there to get through. And by the time we cross there, it's crazy. Because the straightaway, I'm going from those two turns. If you turn and go down and come back, you can. But then you're usually in the middle of the we do have studies in the Colt, right? It's the Tuesdays we have. So Coulter's is right there. It's very greasy. So, I'll eat ice cream every day, but
Ballpark and
how healthy is that?
below this.
So,
Yes. Yes. And that was just with those 4 times.
Chick-fil-A. We'll get Publix here.
Yes. I don't have any doubt.
Reading across the street is Publix. It'll take our whole hour lunch to get across the street, go there and come back. Whereas I can go to Publix here in 15 minutes. And come back.
Are we all here?
Well, just Wawa will not be in our parking lot. It's gonna be a big change because
would start with Jim. Would you, we didn't talk about this, but could you kind of give us, this was my, what are the objectives? What have we achieved? And what do we need to do? What would you like us to see out of this meeting?
Well, the objective is you all, okay, I mean, in terms of there. As I put in my note, worst case scenario was a millage of 7.25. And there's the rollback. Somewhere in that area, at least in my mind, with the administrator, I think it's ideal, as for funding what needs to be done. Just on the four things yesterday, from the hurricane reserve, the 75,000 on contracted services that was geared towards sidewalks, the 11,300 from the CAC, and a $29,000 adjustment we did on the parks operating, yeah. It was in your report at 74, and we reduced that down. Those four items came to 205,300, and that currently brings the millage rate to 7.162. So, in the first day, I'm gonna say, I think we accomplished at least my goal of no worse than 7.25, or below that. We still gotta go through the department, so I anticipate there'll be questions and discussion from you all on what, fund or not. And so I think that'll be the starting point there. The two things I passed out to you, we started yesterday on assessments, and I just gave you an updated sheet based on the stormwater, based on the discussion yesterday. So that just re-updated that sheet on what the impact would be. And then the other thing I gave you was taking the taxable value range in Lake Helen from 400,000 to 75,000, and just showing you what it would be at 7.25 and what it would be at 6.6718. Again, nothing but a visual, just to give you that idea. And since we're already tad lower than the 7.25, same number down where they're getting to their, that gives you on the side either what the increase or the decrease would be, or the savings would be. For example, let's just pick the mean value. Keep in mind now, 90% of homes in Lake Helen are valued for taxable purposes $300,000 or less. That's 90% of the homes. So the mean of that is 132,347 taxable now. That's not your market value and what have you. And keep in mind, someone who's been in their home a long time can have a high value with low tax rates because of Save Our Homes and CAP. That's done in that period. But a home at 132,347 at the 7.25 would pay $965 a year, and at the rollback rate of 6.6718 would be $887, so a difference of $78. So that would be anything below the 7.25 would be, I don't want to say savings, but it would lower that cost factor. And then I just gave you examples on a $400,000 house, 300,000, 250, 200,000, 150, 175. And again, these are not market values; these are taxable values. And you'll find, quite honestly, very small number of homes, 400,000 or above in terms of tax value in terms of that process. This is just nothing more than to give you a little bit of that. And on the back, I did that last year, and as the question was asked, I just put the information out like the billets, their taxable rate and assessments and things like that. So on the very back of that one page, then you can have, that's and I looked at the tax roll today, and they still have them valued the assessments, would be at 85,566.70. And again, those unit numbers are just based on how the tax office billed. I think there was 200.
209 units, I think, 209.
209 units, okay, so I don't know, I mean, how the county does that, but that's, I just took it right off of their bill, how they bill that. So that just gives you kind of a general view of where that's at. Now, I know we've discussed, the salary and the changes, and, I do have a spreadsheet, we can play with that, but right now, we didn't, put any of that in, to the 4 cuts, that were put on there, we just did the hurricane and the contracted. So I figured we'd start with the legislative and we'll start going, department by department. That's okay with you?
Sounds like a plan.
So page 14, or there's 2 ways we can do this. Page 14, or I did ask Zach to do one that looks like the budget variance report. And so that would be page 30.
Mine did that at the house and went across the room.
Is it page 30?
Yeah, it's page 30, and then it should say, 1 of 5. It should look,
Okay.
it's the format that's used for the budget variance, other than, we have the budget total, previous, where we're at year to date and what have you. So it's the same information as on the other, it's just, because we get used to using that. I mean, I just thought we can use either one. I mean, the numbers are the same, they didn't change, but I personally like the variance one, because it's something we see every month, so it's kind of easier to follow the same format in terms of what we're doing. So on legislative, got a total of, you guys can see that there, I mean, the legislative salaries, the FICA and the retirement, those are all preset, so those aren't numbers that we calculate in. So the rest of that, is in reference to travel and per diem. Other charges, and we've got, Aaron, to give a breakdown on that, and operating supplies, dues and subscriptions. Dues and subscriptions are all the citywide, the Florida League of Cities, the Volusia League of Cities, the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, anything that involves in that, so in terms of that line item. So legislative, we're showing, if I'm reading this right, 74,000. Any questions?
Anybody with nothing?
Aaron, you just think has proposed their rates, Zach may have that.
Well, I was just wondering if they were going well.
Well, he's got a note in here, FRS, senior is 37%, FRS general is 15, and FRS police is 30. And he's got a little note here that says final rates pending, so he may have rounded those just in terms of that. So the FRS is just a contribution that's based on salary.
And executive, under other current charges, I didn't see in our bills paid, or, let's see.
That is the only one that I don't know. You know, it's definitely that question on my end. When I look up my expense approval report, I have nothing that I've put there particularly.
Put a note on that, and I can send an email and have an answer by tomorrow.
Awesome, thank you.
All right?
Projection of $75,000 for the attorneys. That's a projection that we have.
Or we, I don't want to move ahead, I want to make sure.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I mean, I know Heather went into executive, are we okay with legislature?
Yes, yes. You're ready?
All right. In executive, again, the first, series, we're pretty much plugged in, you know, based on the numbers that are there. Dues and subscriptions, that's for the, ICMA, Florida City County Manager Association, and the Florida, City Clerk, organization under there, and we'll look up on what is the other, current charges that is budgeted, for 2000, so I'll get an answer on that one tomorrow. No questions there, we'll go to, the attorney. Attorney charges are always kind of a swag, I mean, because it's not, you know, it's all based on how we use them. Sometimes we use them and we use them, you know, a bit, and then there are other times it's been rather quiet. So I mean, quite honestly, it's been kind of quiet here for a bit. And I know the comment was made yesterday involving, there's only one lawsuit against the city, and that's not anti-stop, so his billing would be in terms of there. So I just took what was the annual, of what was being projected based on, you know, where we were at. And, so I lowered it from 75,000 to 65,000. That was just based on taking an educated guess on what we're billing now versus what it could be. And again, you know, it's like any line item, something happens and that goes up, but it's, you know, setting a number, you know, I think it will cover us. You know, anything big that comes up, quite honestly, you know, the insurance, any losses, we kind of oranged out would be the bottom line, where, you know, based on each department. So, yeah, no, his is just straight from his invoice. We don't pay, you know, insurance, FICA, or anything like that.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
I've got executive total and another line professional, and then I've got legal total, so what?
Professional services.
See how this is covered?
Yeah.
That's just it, he's only in one line department.
Okay.
The next one starts under the administration.
Oh, okay, okay, one line.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
All right.
So legal is at 75,000,
65.
65.
The column, the column on the left is the current year,
I see.
and the column on the right is the proposed.
Alright. Yeah.
When you get into administrative, once again, first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line items are all preset. They're insurance, retirement contributions, FICA, salary and wages. So in here we have the accounting and auditing. That would be the auditor, and then the accounting, financial management is Tyler.
Accounting, financial management.
Oh,
Zach.
that's Zach, that's Zach, yeah.
And both of those two are split 60/40 with his.
Well, meaning there's another portion, that 45 is the full amount of the general fund, there's another portion that's in the water fund that you'll find when we get to that.
Do we know if that prospect is eligible for diesel?
Oh, gosh. Anyway, I will get the contract pulled tomorrow, and I'll have that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Alright, and let's see, the Clarion's on there, but we got rid of that last year, and, Tyler, is again, is the amount for the general, and then there's another Tyler line item, the utility, because you treat that separately, as the enterprise fund carries its own costs. Aaron, on that one, the dues and subscriptions.
For administration is all of our, Adobe, website, that kind of stuff.
Microsoft,
Yeah.
Microsoft, okay.
We don't set anything aside for administrative training.
I thought there was something over there we found on the stuff.
Let me see, we have,
Is it in other government or?
Maybe other, which is weird, it's not on here in this version, but it's on the other version. That says TV payment fees.
make sure I look back at that other sheet, because these should be identical.
I know.
But you're right, there was
It was.
2,500,
Was,
wasn't it?
yep.
Yeah. Let me look under administrative.
It's under, the next one.
Is it under general?
Okay.
And it's like 5 or 6 down from the top of the page.
So the training is covered under travel per diem.
There is one in there in the general for Bravo,
Yes, yes. No, the travel and per diem under other general government, right, you're right, that's the training line item, so like if, for example, there's one coming up in Daytona on planning, and Debbie's gonna go to that, and I think it's like $45 a person, but she's even sending it out to like the Historic Preservation Board and things like that, so that would come out of, that's that training item. Well, we put it in there because a lot of times the training has some traffic, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, for hotel or what have you, so, I mean, I asked that, but it was just creating a line in there, but I mean, for the amount, I don't think it was very little so far this year, I think.
Okay.
Chief, you said that you do, your training in-house, the two offices that.
In-house, but it's also provided at all state colleges for free. And they do have a separate training line item.
The bottom line, $2,000. Has any of our employees, police or public works had, workers' comp?
Have workers' comp?
In other words, an injury on the job,
Oh,
that would be covered.
that's covered under,
I guess my point is that.
yeah, there's a worker compensation line item.
Yeah, but we
We
got a
made-
good safety record. So you have.
Yeah, we don't have anybody on, but we don't have any, but, yeah. Each of the sections will have a workers' comp, you know, area, we pay for the workers' comp insurance.
We're pretty safe.
Mhm.
We're pretty
Pretty
safe.
safe.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions on administration,
What about other current charges
on
on other general government?
other government?
It doesn't
Is that the one for 600?
No, no, so the government,
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped down to police.
you dropped that 10,000 because there's really nothing in that one.
Yeah, you can see we use 2%, so I mean, so I cut that down to 10, because there was some history that that line item had been used previous, and so I don't know, I mean, if Aaron.
Like last year, I think it was year before, we did the Blue Chilita City Center, we hosted it, that's where most of that went.
Okay, and we've tried to cover for some of that now, but the others, so.
Yeah, we don't use that other mostly, not, I can look and see what that 327 was, but.
Yeah, so depending on what that is, it could be that we've not used any of that, so, I mean, so yeah, I did cut that to 5,000, but, you know, to be honest, if we haven't used any of it in terms of their, I mean.
Is there arborist services recoverable, like if somebody's building, wants to tear down, take down a tree,
Yeah,
do
that's
they
part of
pay
their-
for that?
That's part of their review fee and the permits.
Okay,
And then if somebody, if a resident wants a tree looked at and we send our arborist, they pay the $40 that we pay our arborist.
we've got $30,000 in it for historical consultant fees. Since most of the woods has already been completed, that's where a lot of the fees are going to, does that,
Which line item there?
underneath the arborist historic consulting fee.
The historical, that's your historical preservation board, that would be
That's
the
Bobby Morales.
Bobby Morales.
But,
Yeah. But again, those are costs that come into us, but they're also paying their application. People submit their application fee, but they bill us, just like the planner will look at a plan, you know, the development that's going on. They bill us, and then we turn around and bill the applicant, you know, in terms of, because you guys approved last year, where we can even require a deposit and then approve pass-through things. And just to give you an example, I think what are we looking at, there's about 28,000 on Faith Grove.
I'm sorry, I walked in.
Oh, no, Faith Grove.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
Road was already done. And, yeah, and the others have been single family, we did like 4 homes last year. So it's neat. Now, if the cost of property were to develop, you know, something like that may go in, it's not much more infrastructure, we don't have it. Right?
I have a question, and I think it might fit in with what Bear was talking about, with the T-site pipe, in Triple. I guess it's a subdivision that was supposed to have been done in 21, 22 budget, it's still not done.
We're,
That's
we're,
all I asked.
we're lining
That's water.
Oh, you're, oh, that's water.
That's water.
Oh,
Yeah, because it was supposed to have been done in 21, 22, and I don't think it's been done.
No, man, that didn't.
So we're not adding it to the budget whatsoever to work on it?
That would be out of utility, but no, not the engineer, because they're working on that right now, has to work plan in, get there, because that had been put down at the bottom of the list, so that at the top, where I have the 4 line 11, it goes to the bottom there, and that seems to be priority one.
And I heard there was something like asbestos or
So we have that off the lake, but we have insufficient pipes down through there, and galvanized pipes really bad. We had a water break about 3 weeks ago in the backyard, and we couldn't get to it, and it was galvanized even 1 inch deep in all the houses down there. It's a hodgepodge of fittings and sizes and everything in there. The water's good, it's the transmission lines that are bad, and that subdivision's been on my radar since I just stopped took over water and everything, because they are, and they're in the backyard, you can't work on them. We barely got back to it, we can't run any machine or anything. All we got to do is tear everything up and get back in place. So, they did Virginia, partially set it up, the main ones are, Sydney and John Street, they're in the backyard, so. And I've already spoke to our new engineers about putting that on there, and putting it up, and for funding, so.
I was just wondering if it was ever going to go back on the budget, since it was supposed to come in 21, 22, and then. Okay, thank you.
So that was in progress then?
Well, they're all in progress, but I put it back to the top of the list. They had it at the bottom.
But we don't have any plans for it this year.
No, not till engineer gets back with us on what they do in the master plan, what they can get funded. But I have let it slip, I make sure I talk about all the time.
and anything else on other general government? We go to police.
Okay, salary and wages, I believe that already needs to put down.
Yeah, I had,
That was the original amount.
yes, yeah, and because there was different percentage given out, I just held off on that and figured we'd get through, and then when we're done that, we can come back and just focus on the salary, and have a separate spreadsheet that shows what the impact would be right across the board. But yeah, that line item as you see right now.
Is this?
Okay.
Excellent.
Again, most of what, you know, the first 5, 6, 7 lines are, you know, salary, FICA, retirement, life and health, workers' comp, so those are things that, and chiefs reduced, you know, professional services, contractor services, travel and per diem.
Okay, for professional services and
she's talking about how it has accounts, professional services and contracted services. Contracted services is the fire department, the one with the assessment and everything. But professional is like when they come out and do our, fire, or, those things, yeah, those things. Yeah. That, cause that bills, nothing.
So that does not go into the non-taxable.
No, yeah, that's a general fund, that's all, that's a
Yeah,
tax.
come and do all
That's
the
all the
stuff,
fire
it's all
sensors,
those fires.
everything there,
and stuff.
you see, well, we have a lot.
We have like 25 of them, I think, in all the buildings and everything.
Yeah, they just may, depending on how they do it annually, they just may not have come out yet.
July.
Yeah, July, okay, so right
Yeah,
now,
July.
we haven't spent any money,
Should
we
be
have
next
all
month.
spent in July.
Yep.
And the businesses pay their own fire, inspection.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just all,
Yes.
it's the city.
City buildings and vehicles.
For the office expenditures on all of them, are we prepared or using Microsoft 11 yet?
I haven't seen.
Office 360.
Well, that's Office, but the Microsoft program,
Any Windows?
Windows, yeah, Windows program.
We do not use 11.
Because 10 is expiring the end of, coming up this fall.
The big server operators, they'll do it automatically, they manage all of that, so they'll just, they'll push it through the boxes.
Where are we at, are we in police?
Police, we've got, the next page is 3 to 5. Principal police car?
Yeah, what's your question on?
Is that a purchase?
That is the principal, that's what we're currently paying on the police cars. So, yeah, we have one more year left on the lease for the full time.
Explain that to us again. I know we got several cars and they were on a lease.
Yes, we got 4 cars in 21, so they have one more year, 5 years, once the lease is up.
So we don't
So
charge.
that's $1 account that we pay afterwards.
Okay.
So once, so that's currently what we're paying on those 4 cars, so we have that expenditure for, this next fiscal year coming out.
That's how it was budgeted when we got the, so it terminates.
And next,
The price, I mean, the expense terminates once we own the.
yes, yes.
And are the officers that have cruisers home with them?
Not yet, that's something down the road, but we don't have enough cars for the quality home program, not right now.
There's a plus and minus to the cars going home. What would you, what's your assessment?
The biggest reason is recruitment. No other, every other agency has take-home cars, so it comes down to being an officer, it's just another reason not to come work at Lake County. So. and
You gotta
that's-
drive
that's
and
what
work.
it is, yeah.
And not take your car home,
Correct.
and if you have an emergency, you
One
have
of
to
the-
drive in, get your car, and then.
Correct, officers get called in, doesn't happen all the time, but they do get called in, but just because you're in uniform and you're leaving work, doesn't mean that if you see something on the side of the road, you just go by. So if you have an officer that lives in Deltona, that lives in one city, it's a lot better than that, police cars, they can pull over to assist somebody in an accident or whatever than their personal vehicle. I mean, there's multiple reasons behind it,
Does that insurance cover the cars that go home differently from when they're
No.
same coverage?
Yeah, the only expenditure on that would be a little bit of gas. And it would also depend on how far away the officer lives, so we don't have a policy on it yet, but if an officer, we have an officer that lives 100 miles away, but there are agencies that do have officers that live 100 miles and they drive 200 miles an hour. You see, like, unique cars, I've seen, Lake Yeah, so if you ever see somebody
Yeah, I
else's
remember that.
police car, I think that was an Adobe car, there was one that was a, Osceola County also. And what had happened with him is his mother lived in Black, Beach, and she was ailing, but he didn't have a way to take care of her by bringing her to where he lived, so he had to move in with his mother, to take care of her when he was off. But his agency wouldn't let him leave, he had to go, so he can only drive his car so far out. So he had to drop it off here, because this was kind of the last spot, right at the edge of their miles or so.
I think it's like that seminar county too.
What was that?
I think it's like that seminar county as well.
It is, most agencies are 25 miles from, so you take your home where you live, you draw 25 miles, is that about right, 25?
Yeah.
You drive, you would get a map, so you would say this is where the officer lives, you would drive a 25 mile circumference. If the city of Lake Elvin fell within that circle, then they would have to.
Do we have a courtesy arrangement with, officers from other departments who happen to live in Lake Helen? Do you kind of have a ballpark figure, or is it just a general number that you have nothing to know?
Like how many other
Yeah.
officers were there?
That are making themselves known.
Joey, you can help me out on this, but I know we have 3 deputies.
That live here?
Yes. I know we have 3 deputies.
We have 4 Orange County guys, 2 Orlando.
And their cars would be in their driveway.
You can see them in the driveway.
So it kind of gives us another expanded car ratio, because remember they used to have one for back, going to the village, that, state trooper used to live,
Yes, yeah.
and everybody slowed down when it came to this house.
Yep, yep, right there in the big house.
I know 10.
What's that?
I know 10.
10?
Got 10 cars in there.
So the vehicle and equipment line here, is that for maintaining the vehicles then?
I'm sorry?
The vehicles and equipment line on page 3, the very first.
Yes, yes.
That's for maintaining the vehicles?
That is, well, the one is where you see the capital outlay, that's, my goal is to, when these cars are done, that we purchase a car once a year. That way, we always have a line item, and we're gonna be purchasing a car once a year, that way we never have a car that's more than 6 years old. You know, so it just keeps, so, you know, we'll have cars 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. I can't put that in the budget, because we don't know how much we're gonna get, but, the new cars that we're getting are F-150s, so the resale value is really high. So even after 5 years, we don't put a ton of mileage on the car. So that vehicle is probably gonna still be worth 50% of the price. But I can't put that on the budget because we don't know what it's gonna be, so I don't have the budget for the vehicle, for the full price of the vehicle. But what that is that's, $25 in capital to that we should have done years and years ago when we bought cars, and it was never done, and I want to keep that going, so we don't have to just all of a sudden drop $100,000 on vehicles.
Do you have a policy for officers that stop a crime situation and is cash
It's
in
not
the
really a policy, it's just, it's the law, it's just law forfeitures.
It comes to the department, or?
Yes, yeah. Forfeitures are, well, it depends on what it is. If somebody comes through and are Tom Baker being, and they're dealing drugs, trafficking, we're gonna see it, because as long as there's not a lease, obviously we're not gonna take over, $200,000 car lease. At the same time, you get a jumper, it's only worth $500. If you seize a car, you're gonna have to pay those attorney fees, to get that, but most likely it's all in the car, and those attorney fees are that far, $2,000 the car. So, it depends. We've only forfeited 1 vehicle that I know of, that we actually turned into a
Super Memorial is not in our city limits, and, I think it was Ben Johnson at the time, they were asked, he kind of turned it down that we would send our officers in when they were vandalizing it. If that would be an agreement, some sort of an agreement would be allowed us to go into.
We would be able to go in there, and we can go to Deltona if we want, we can try, we don't. But, you know, we go in and ask David, that's not our jurisdiction, but we still have players that live in Lake Helen and go to Cascade and vice versa. And if we see something, outside of our jurisdiction, we can still act on it, we just need to get our jurisdiction. And that's when we just get on the radio and let them know, hey, I've got, just for example, I got two guys walking down the street, they're both carrying crowbars, you know. The says go out, check them out, make sure, the sergeant's usually gonna get on there and say, yeah, they got them.
The instance that I'm thinking about is that there was a vandalism of the tombstones, and police were called, and we told them, whoever the person that called, that it wasn't in our jurisdiction, and then they called the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department didn't even know where it was.
Oh, I see what you're
When they
saying.
got there, they would go in, so.
The sheriff's office wouldn't go?
The sheriff department, that was before they had the fence there,
Okay.
they showed up, because they didn't know where it was, and they got there, because the people who made the complaint was still in the vicinity, and they saw the officer, and he wouldn't get out of the car.
There is,
That's a long time ago, but it's still that kind of a thing that we.
it is, that particular area, especially right there, Stewart frontage, Orange Camp, we know it's our jurisdiction, I mean, we know our jurisdiction, but they will still go in and count, it's still all, you know, because there's little pieces, you know, about what's actually there, but, as far as I know, they patrol.
We still patrol it.
Yeah, we still go down.
So our relationship with the county and Deland has gotten a lot better since our chief got replaced. So pretty much anytime we go out, if we see something, we call it out, and they'll usually just give us mutual aid, or we'll stand by until a deputy arrives on scene.
Thank you, thank you.
Any more questions on police? Fire, we covered. Solid waste is a pass-through, you know, it's contracted service. And
Question on that too, let me finish, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Last year, we discussed this, about where each year, our waste pro should send us a record, or, I guess, how much money we spent for pickups, or some kind of information to you that's, that is tied to the contract. And last year you said no, they did not send you any information. I think it was on the recycling, how much money, and of course they said they didn't make any money because they're not doing recycling, China's not buying our recycling. I think it's part of the contract where they're supposed to make you aware
Yeah.
that,
17 cents.
but are they making, I mean, are they, they're not in breach of contract by not sending you the
No.
information that's necessary?
No, the contract increase was a total of 1.89, but it was broken into the general pickup, and then it was like a 17-cent increase for recyclables.
And we've got, what, 2 more years with them?
It is, but I can tell you, Commissioner, at the last managers meeting I had, almost everybody in that room was, or both of them were either coming up and going out, and so they were all getting sticker shock. They were living off maybe the benefit of a few years ago, and so, you know, some of those things that you see out there now involving some of the others, you're gonna see them get close to us. I mean, I can't tell you anything to do with pricing in the garbage world. I mean,
Well, I know you didn't have anything to do with the contract, but, as you know, we get pickup twice a week.
Yeah, yeah, 211, we get a 211, and that, and even if you went to 111, it was nominal savings, but there was a feeling that in Lake Helen, people put out as much the second day as they do the first, so you could end up with a problem of garbage, you know, either going out on the road or whatever, so I mean, And the guy that was over, was our main one, was out on knee surgery. And usually when you end up with a hiccup in garbage, you find out somebody's on vacation or what have you, and there's somebody who doesn't fully know the route, because there are many times, and I know that in the summer, I could probably go back and pull up some of the addresses in the sense. I even had one last week, for a lady, and so got hold of, Steve Cameron, with Waste Pro. I mean, I go straight to him in the sense of, and so truck was sent out to get it picked up. I mean, I know they don't like that, but then I see he CCs other people, so the message is getting around, and I know they did come out, somebody, and did tell us that they had some new people on the route, and I think the guy who had knee surgery is he back out there?
Yeah, he's back.
Okay.
He was gone one day, and we seen the same exact thing, one day he was gone. Probably had to follow up, and we had the same problem. And he's getting back into the team, but Matt
I
was
watched the trucks drive right past the brush piles, skip that one and go up like about 3 more houses and pick theirs up. It's like, why ain't they
Yeah,
all?
They have a weird way of picking up garbage.
Christmas friends in that picture.
Yeah, something that leaves them down the driveway.
That happens when we go.
Our neighbor put a computer, like.
But if we, we get calls or whatever, I mean, we jump right on it. I mean, it goes straight to that, and I mean, I'll call the person back or they get an email, so I mean, I've told some customers who said they called and not gotten a call, I said, let me know, then you don't call, because they'll answer us, because we're the ones paying the bill.
And
The customer pays it, but we write a check.
I found that they've been responsive over the years, responsive to not only the calls that when something's wrong, but even when we call and say that the drivers did something exceptional, because they have an incentive program that if you call and your driver just did something that was really cool, they give them a bonus.
They call it above and beyond.
Above and beyond, yes. And that also, I guess, that calls it, a good work environment, and most of the guys that are on my route, and, I know every day, every week they see them, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say I've had more questions in a brief period of time, but if you look at the numbers, I can pull you out of at least the ones that I've dealt with, they're really small in comparison to 1,500 homes, if you're doing it on that basis. Now, it's frustrating that person who's garbage didn't get picked up with their household, but it's not like we've got a customer service problem and I'm dealing with, 10, 15 people a pickup day. I mean, it's one here and there, and again, when we did find a hash of them, we knew what it was and they addressed it. So as long as they're responsive, because even with that, I mean, if you want it out of the contract, I mean, they're written to where they're in the garbage company's favor, that's the standard. I'm not saying that's right, but that's. So Lenny, you're right, I mean, in 2 years, actually, the year before it expires is when you go out, because you need the time to tell them, and then another company to stage, so now, we don't have to pick up cans as I tell them. I mean, I've been to some places where the old company then arranged to get your can on a certain day, and then you want the new company's can to be here at the same time. So, yeah, you do that a year ahead of time, so if you're gonna make that change, you've done it with a lot of.
That's true, the year we start looking at.
Yes,
That's a long time.
I'm not gonna disagree. I think on a chart that I saw, it might be one of the highest in Volusia County, but yeah, I mean, while it may go up for others, but it doesn't justify, meaning, I couldn't tell you why or.
No, you weren't here.
Yeah, they were at that level.
Because we piggyback Palm Coast.
On the coast.
This last contractor,
Why not Nashville or something?
Well, I know your haul are pretty consistent, and I know there was one year where somehow a year was missed and you kind of didn't have a contract.
They were giving us contracts that would be perpetual without raises over the courtesy that we had the relationship. So there were times where we kind of got a break, but wherever it came from, it also left.
We're making up for that.
Yeah.
Goes to say there's no free lunch, right?
to get back at the United States, they changed it so we only accept clean plastic. Well, that eliminated 90% of the plastic that was going over there.
And this would be determined to be not clean. So if you had a bottle and it had a cap on it, they could say that's
But
not.
you touched it.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, it's clean.
Well, actually, Roger reviewed it, and I think pretty good.
So if you don't want to wait, you still get shit.
I think Cameron, you asked about the caps, and they said, no, just throw the caps in
Yeah,
there.
don't put the cap on the bottom. Actually a different dense of plastic.
Yeah, it was okay with them because they're not recycling, so.
We didn't move on to resource management. Okay, great, I have a question about the contracted services. Guessing that's coming up.
Yes. Where are you?
Resource management.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I-
And very late.
Yeah, I put in the same amount, you know, that, we've had, so far. A lot of what we've done is by the Florida, Fish and Game, and we don't get charged on that from, what's the CJ?
Yeah, WC, yeah. We also had, about a year ago, we had, the lake cleaning before the last, Lake Fest, and that was donated by CFP. They have their own machine, they donated that cleaning. I think,
We don't need that currently.
no, that's, yeah, there's no need for it right now currently. The 20,000 you still have in there for the lakes. I mean, you could take that down if you wanted to at this point for this year, but we have other things that come up around there, so it kind of handles everything around there. We have this boom mower around there that comes out of there, stuff like that. If we do have a need for it, we'll have to come back in and do that.
But we haven't spent anything.
No, because we had the hurricane.
Yeah.
And kind of used
Yeah,
to
well,
out
the
there.
water's so
Right.
long. Their area, you don't know we're in the water.
Yeah, there's, yeah.
That hurricane overflow and everything put a hold on the, cart also, didn't it?
What?
The cart,
Yes,
trike-load cart.
yeah, the park also put a hold on the, Forever the project too for Fred Basso's doing, because if he had put it in then, we'd have hit it underwater.
But I think the carts are in, Lake Helen now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the carts are in.
Lake Helen now, CJ confirmed that.
Oh, yeah,
And
and
also,
He would.
My son will tell me,
Mason,
sorry.
yeah, and also Mason.
He doesn't like the park.
They should have put it in Mason, because there's no way to control the outflow.
Maybe it was just a,
Yeah, they won't do it in Macy because there's an outflow, you have to put the screens of the.
he did treatment on Mason.
Yeah.
Yeah, treatment on Mason. All right, anything other on resource management?
You wanna go to the cemetery?
Did we pass?
It's under resource management.
Same, yeah.
You wanna go to that one, or? Sure. That's in the book here also, if you pull your tab. Now, I was informed by, Ann that I did some wrong calculations on some stuff. Sorry about that, they are wrong.
What was it, and the comment using dollar signs in your eyes?
So if you just go back and look,
I had
Roxanne,
everything up.
the last couple of years, we've had a lot of surveying done. Roxanne and I have been working, she actually found a company to come in, they're doing our web page and starting to put all the people in there so they can come up with plans, correct? And we've done surveying, and we've gotten mistakes, and we mark, if you go out there now, you'll see these big blue things that say water line, but that's all I can find. And we're marking the corners now, and actually, you'll see in the next probably 2 weeks, the, roads are gonna start being cut in. My big dog, they wanted the estimate to do the roads. We'll be able to do the main road that goes all the way in to the main part of the new section. If you come around the corner there, that's being done, and then 25 feet out going around line. So I put more money in this next year to finish out those and start getting the roads. That's gonna make the cemetery really step out and look good, because you're gonna have them roads to start doing that.
Are they gonna fix the, storm drain on the corner?
They're going to, yeah, we're gonna do a
Because
little
it
bit
has
there.
to be raised, because it's about 18 inches below the ground.
Yeah, he's gonna do a little bit there, he said he would donate a little bit of work down there to do that, and also coming in there. And then you see, we put in state plots and stuff like that, I put in another, 85 $2,500 for the millings to do that, and another $8,000 for more, surveying. We actually have people that are actually where they belong. Now, 3 people unfortunately passed away, but they are actually where they belong. Surveying, and it's been a really good thing. You can see where they go, we can cut the plots, you know, there and we'll mark them. So we're getting, another 3 to 5 years, we'll have a really nice cemetery plan. We keep moving like this and,
Something else you might wanna take a look at is there at the corner of the road that comes in from Kickliner, intersection with the one that comes down from Root. The opposite side from where the drain's at, putting a low retention wall or something there to keep the road from washing over that one grave site.
where we come in, that goes right
The
there.
headstone keeps on getting covered by
Yeah,
everything running off the road.
Yeah, we actually addressed that too, now, it's gonna do a little bit of work there also, but yeah, we're gonna do something there. But, that's what we have in there, and I put $1,500 in, because we do get fence repairs. People go in there and cut the fence and, you know, take out. I've actually, when we were doing that road, you know, we have a lot of time when people come in to a funeral, they can't get out. They don't know where to go. So that main road going in, we were out there looking, and we decided that maybe we should cut a big double gate in right there. So when they're having a funeral, they can go straight out to Summit and go out, come out. We open it only during times of a funeral service. So I think we're gonna put that in, and that will allow people to park all along, go out, not back into everybody's graves and then have a mess to get out. It is a mess to get out of there. So that's gonna help along with that too. That'll be going in.
Area what you using for the roads.
Millings.
Millings?
Yeah, millings, yeah. They're rolled 6 inches thick.
We wanna move down the roads?
Yeah, I had some fun with somebody, I was asking about the blue markers out there. Yeah, they're planning on putting in a sprinkler system.
That's the one thing I can find. That's the one thing I can find that was reasonable out there to put in.
Those little flags on
No.
Roads, tree maintenance services, see, that is jumping quite a bit, same as road maintenance services.
Yeah, the tree maintenance services. We did that, because Jim and I talked about, almost all of our tree trimming is in the streets. We do some in the parks, but instead of breaking it up, we just make it all out of one area there. And do that. Now, we haven't spent all of it this year, if you'll look, I believe. Yeah, but that will be expelled. We have things coming that are still trimming. I try to hold off at the beginning of the year, you know, our budget, just to make sure and do what we have to do. And then, of course, when we get near hurricane season, go out and start trimming them up heavy. So if we do have a hurricane, that's how we work on that there. But we did combine them, so that would be, the equestrian center, parks, when we cut the trees, anything has to be done by them, that would come out of there.
And also that position was, where he said hurricane prep, you're gonna have your heavy trimming.
Yeah, like they're doing it right now, you see them back out there, starting again now.
Okay. In the road maintenance, services, are any of the roads that were impacted by the previous hurricanes included in that? It doesn't look like a very large number for that.
That's gonna be partial road maintenance services there, that's gonna be partial, probably intersection, repaving and stuff like that. We did get with, FEMA did send us mitigation on some of our first projects, we're working through that now, I guess they,
We'll get an update Tuesday, because
Yeah.
I had to go on this week and release on our report that
Yeah.
involved the roads and stuff, so we're getting close. They broke the roads into 2 categories. The ones that were underwater were one, and the others that weren't underwater, they addressed first. I think those are in the pipeline, so we will
Yeah.
get on Tuesday what we're getting from FEMA back from that for mitigation or a plan, and then, hopefully we'll get an update on the ones that were underwater. So we're trying to get.
it looks like we're gonna get some mitigation money. It won't be enough to do everything, but it'll be some of the way to help. They only restore back the way it was, okay? But they'll give you that money there, so it looks like the way I read it, the way they did it, they did mitigation
Church Street, right next to the church, there's a big gully there. I think Rick said you had filled it in.
Yeah.
The pictures that I had, that, at least 3 feet of new dirt had been completely eroded. I've been keeping an eye on it. It's been actually getting broader, and now it was at least at one time maybe 20 feet away from the road. I had the pictures, I didn't print them out. But now it is now crept within 5 feet of the road.
Yeah, we're gonna,
And,
we run that quickly.
And the roads are striated, like they're compromised. The same thing that we had with Pennsylvania. That's one of the reasons that we had to close that down, because it was, we still got an issue that may not be for here, but we still have an issue of big trucks coming through there, bringing very heavy loads through. And with our compromised roads right now, it is creating a real big problem that we have, that Chief and Jim on. But just for, like I said, this is for full disclosure. This is in our zone, this is in our city, so be aware.
So my concern is that this 40,000 is not going to be enough just from hearing what we're talking about here.
And where?
No,
So I think we need to maybe bump that number up. I
Where
don't
are you
know how y'all feel about that, but,
I'm sorry, where were you?
road
The roads
maintenance
maintenance
services.
services.
And we are budgeting 40,000 on page 3 and 5.
Oh, okay,
It's about midway through the page there.
I see it.
And, I don't know, maybe we need to double that number.
Well, when we take that line item and look at Ricky's, wiping off for every firm, don't they correlate? Should the numbers correlate to what you put here for your totals?
no, not, some of it does, some of it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah, and not all of it is true representation of that
Okay.
on everything. There are other things that are in there too. This is just your highlighted things that I put in there, and you would highlight that one to see we were doing something like that.
Okay.
Rick, what I can see on here too, if I'm reading this, that there wasn't anything budgeted
No,
last year? So that 40,000 is new.
and
There's room materials and supplies, but again, that doesn't look like it has much in anything. Or maybe I'm on the wrong line.
you go,
Road materials is going up. to
yeah, if
75.
you look in the book right in my book, you'll see roads, millings, asphalt patch, total materials amount to 75. We're spending, every time the dirt roads get rainy and everything, we're putting more and more millings on the roads. It just costs a lot to take care of the dirt roads. And you mill them, they roll them, you get a heavy rainstorm, it beats them out again, you still gotta keep doing it. And it's just a constant thing to take care of on the dirt roads. So I up that, because we're gonna probably go over budget on that one this year by the time we're done, if we continue. The only reason it hasn't gone over right now is because we've had to do water repairs and stuff, and haven't been back on the roads, so we're on the dirt roads doing them.
We're at 82%, so.
Yeah, we should, we're gonna go over on it. I'll try to talk to you, but I think we are before the end of the budget cycle.
And this 82% is as of April 30th?
Yes.
Yes. That's why I bumped it up.
Yeah,
Because
I don't think that 75 is gonna be enough.
No.
So, and dare I say, we say 80 for the road maintenance services and 80 for road material and supplies, and those might be conservative numbers.
every single time. No matter what you do, that is
I
it's
think
the
that's
rain.
the longest it's held too, those
Yes.
patches I've seen.
So we're running more cold patch, and that costs more than just using millings and all that on there. And then as you repair and do milling wells, when you roll them, you can no longer go cut them and put millings back down, you have to use cold patch on them. Because now they're hard to surface. But it's building a layer and a layer after a while, we build the layers up, and some of the roads hold really well. But you have to continuously put that on there and keep building them up, because you're gonna have the erosion from the water and everything else on.
What's the cost difference?
As far as hot patch,
If we're doing cold patches instead of milling, so I'm just thinking like. the
Cold
dredge
patch costs a
that
lot
we're
more.
talking about.
cold patch we buy by the truckload, that costs about $4,000 something per 20 tons. And it doesn't go a long way. When you do an intersection, we can probably do 3 intersections with that alone. I mean,
And comparable to, the pricing. to-
millings are about $575 a load, somewhere in there, or 600 a load, then they go up. But again, they roll, some tight, some don't, but the cold patches, when it hardens up and you roll it, it becomes asphalt, basically asphalt's what it is. And that becomes our intersections where we're having the best luck with it, because that's our most damaged intersections and stuff. And Tangerine, we can go down Tangerine 100 times a million. It's one of those roads that washboards, some roads are never gonna be, you just gotta constantly be on. There's no way that, unless you actually go out and pave them, or do slag, or they do the tar and gravel, you're not gonna fix that road, and that's gonna still be a problem. So, we do the best we can to maintain them, but it's getting more expensive if you wanna do it right. 'Cause the more weather we get, all these big heavy rains, the more the road's off.
Church in Pennsylvania are roads that have water running underneath them, and they're cauldrons, and it's not like you got a flat a solid surface, you have a tunnel, and the tunnel being impacted by the number or the weight of the cars, and then that's where most of the striations I find, when I walk a lot, and there's a tunnel, there's a flow through going through, and right along the flow through is where the cracks are. And church is probably the worst I've seen.
A lot of it also depends on what it's made out of and its age.
Church failed during the Hurricane Milton, the rest of the way, because they actually had a sidewalk, and below it had a, area for the water to run off on that one side and go in, then go down under and go into the little stream we have there. That completely fell off, went down, we had to remove all the 6-inch water line before it blew the water line out, and we put rock on top of it temporarily for mitigation on that, but you're right there at that, where those culverts are, it's completely crown like this, it's just, needs to be completely taken out and redone. It's completely failed.
So let's say we need signage eventually for no trucks or something to the effect that we talked about. Is that included in this?
That comes out of your operating supplies, streets. That's where your signs will come out there, and the park signs will come out of the park. Operating supplies. We do, yeah, that's what we do. I thought about putting a sign line item in there, but it just comes out of operating supplies.
There actually was a signage up on, Ohio, where there was a road weight restriction. There was a big sign up. It used to be a guy that had a lumber, he was a lumber business and logging, and he used to come through there all the time. Mike used to trace him, JC. And, because of the weight of the trucks, the sign's not there anymore. I guess that's where I'm getting at. The trucks that are going over them now, they have gotten themselves into a routine of going through there, and we closed Pennsylvania, so then they have to take another way in. But they have, whatever way they can come in, whether it's Pennsylvania or coming straight down, they leave the same way. And when they leave, they pass my house. I have a camera up, and I was just telling you yesterday, today, that the camera clicks so much that the battery died. I had to go put another battery. But it is counting trucks that go through. And they're about 25 a day. On a good day. 20. It might be in excess of 25, but no less than 15.
Most likely, yes, it would be. We had about 2 years of catching up that we didn't do anything in tree trimming. So that, I held back as much as I could on it, get it done, but we're getting there. And it depends on how much rain we get, how much trees grow. But as we're doing more and more, as we cut the Lake Helen in sections, the more we come back that section, it's usually not as much. Like if you trim a road 1 year and you come back, that next year, usually you don't have as much, depending on what, at least tree work and all that. The county's actually in here right now, doing all their county roads. I spoke to Robbie Peterson, who runs it, because I asked him about 4th of July and the parade route. They're actually doing the parade route first. They'll be doing all their county roads. I talked to Keith Baker, who runs the Osteen Barn, who takes care of all the road part. I asked him if they would come out and start scraping the roads on the road edges and get that off like on Lakeview. He said they'll go ahead and schedule it in, and they'll be mowing and stuff. We missed the mowing before the 4th. He said he would try to set up next where they mow the county roads before the 4th parade and help us out. So you'll see them out here doing Main Street, all their county roads are doing from the ground to the top, trimming them all.
Does Duke,
Duke's been out there a little bit too.
cause that's a separate, they're not
Separate.
conducted when you.
That's separate.
So.
Just to make sure those trees are trimmed out 10 feet from the power line.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, do you have sort of an estimate of what last year's total budget was, with it being in different departments on tree trimming?
No,
I have a,
I don't have time to do that. Just kind of figure out where we are, what we have. And
well, I like this better, so you're saying total,
Total.
$120,000.
Yes, that'll cover the parks and all our trimming everywhere. Just tree trimming in general.
Much
also.
cleaner, I like it this way, and then you can give an answer, yeah, so, do you think it's really gonna take that much? Could we take like?
It'll probably take more than that, but we'll keep it
For
there.
tree trimming?
Yes, ma'am.
Cause you gotta trim and then you gotta remove the debris.
But they do all that, yeah, it's all one.
It's all in there.
There are one pack, they go down to their truck and do the grinder, they grind all stuff, they leave and everything. You know, we haven't even touched some of the areas, like, we just took over the woods, we haven't even touched that yet. So we haven't never trimmed that, that's gotta be trimmed up coming up. In some areas, we have Rogers Zone over there, they did some over there, we still have more. And we constantly have to go back, like Root Street, where it goes to the cemetery. Some things you constantly trim every year. High Street is a constant trim because we have the canopy and all that. You have to constantly keep that trimmed up there, so,
You just said something, you said now we have the woods,
yes.
that was.
When you guys accepted the woods, you accepted the roadways, the
Yeah.
trees, the sidewalks, and everything. So we now have that taken care of. We're actually doing sidewalk here, we had some complaints, we went there and did that, we got more to do. Like I said, next month, the following month, I'll bring in a whole, to finish the sidewalk that we have this year, hopefully. And that'll help next year.
Need to get with the county on, maintenance of the sidewalk on Lakeview too. I heard that there was a lady in front of the, across the street from City Hall that tripped on a sidewalk and injured her knee and her elbow.
Okay. I can contact David Paget, him and Keith Baker. David's the head of that, and Keith is his right hand man. I can get a hold of them. Let them know we have some more problems down through there, that they'll come out and address them. They're really worried about that.
It looks like 2024 budget for trees. I'm sorry, my eyes are tired, it's hard to see. We've got, oh no, this is operating supplies, roads, materials, supplies. We didn't have the trees, under roads. So that's a new line item as well.
It should be under tree, professional service trees or something, was it?
Did you,
Yeah.
but under park, weren't you just taking it out of professional services?
Yeah.
I don't think it had tree written.
No, it didn't have the parks, no, no trees in the park.
We had 80,000 budgeted.
For trees, correct?
Yeah, for tree maintenance. It was 80,000. Which was an increase of 40,000.
That's
So
what I
we knew
was
it wasn't
wondering.
enough.
I was just asking that, but it sounds like other dollars for tree, dollars for trimming trees is also in other departments, so the budget is high. It's 120, a lot
takes us, in my opinion. And then for road materials and supplies, I think that needs to be bumped up to 80 as well, so we're looking at an increase of 75,000 for this line, for this category.
75 total?
Yes. So increase of 40,000 on the road maintenance. And then from 45 to 80.
That moves us back to 7.523.
No, we have, in the road materials, we have it up to 75 right now. That would be only 5 more in there,
Yeah.
and then 40 in the other one.
So it'd be 45,000.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That's the wrong line. Thank you. You're wrong, you're right. So, what do we say road materials?
7.378.
No, I don't know, I'm just talking about those cold patches and whatnot, I'm thinking, we're using that now to repair some of those tougher spots. 75 might also be conservative, but I do see an asphalt patch, 25, 50. Maybe we leave road materials and supplies alone.
Leave it at 75.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could try it and see where we're at this year and see how much we get done, because the object is not to have to do so much every road as we go.
Right.
So,
And it's already an increase there, but this number here, for road maintenance,
Sir,
services, yeah, that one worries me a little bit. What does everyone think? 80? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, because when you go out for repaving a road, that's done underneath the contract, separate contract. This is mainly for small repairs and stuff like that.
it would also be if you got done, you get CDBG, you find roads, and you can't cover all of it, you can use that funds also to cover that, so it hit fast. And if we don't, you can kind of put it away as a reserve, as well as that's what you got in
We
reserve.
won't have CDBG left anymore, they're not
Okay.
doing, yeah, no, everything can be a project based and you can get a heck of a lot more. But
Yeah.
It's gotta be a specific project, they're not just handing it out.
is it competitive?
Yeah.
That's what I'm competitive. As opposed to being allocated, now you have to compete for it.
And I'd almost like to see something like we did with police cars with the roads, put so much away every year so we can get the money to save up to do repaving on the roads, like you put it on, it's in your CIP, you kind of build up your nest egg for, we can have it in there. And that might be what you do with that, we can't do anything but keep putting it in there, put a hold on it. And as we build it up, we can say, okay, we have enough to do Euclid Avenue from, Main Street to, Ohio, and repave it. Just want to say it's one of the worst roads or whatever, and that would be how you'd be able to start doing your road paving.
They use that process when they were putting in that cauldron up by the park. We kept putting money aside, and then
Yes.
and we kept stacking it until we were able to go, we didn't touch it, and then by the time they got.
Stormwater, that has, saving.
Okay.
Same way with CDBG, we used to stack, it really allows us to stack it for, that's how we got Pleasant paved, and also got the sidewalk. They allowed us to stack it for a couple of years, and then utilize it there. But now, obviously, that changed now, but that's how we did it in the past.
Is that an accounting issue that would prevent us from doing that, or is that state regulated to still want to put money in? The question was,
Stuff the money, it needs to go in capital outlay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you create a capital reserve fund. That you consider doing, like if you were putting some of
past that, yeah.
You want to take a swing in the parks and rec? No pun intended.
Move on.
Like capital outlay infrastructure though, before we do fully move on, is looking a little interesting, just because we do have building maintenance that needs to happen, so we don't end up packing in. I mean, we have building maintenance built in for current, but I don't wanna end up like we did with City Hall where it's in disrepair and we're not able to repair it.
I mean, it may blend in, but I was figuring that if we get through the departments, then we could deal just with capital
Yeah.
at one time, because we have a, I mean, at least what we're proposing is $449,400. And it's both in general fund and in wastewater, but that like involves Hopkins Hall and things like that. So as we get through there, we can, since we're proposing that out of ARPA and it doesn't affect the mill, we can deal with that almost, even though it'll be in the departments, but we can deal with that as a separate list. So we can, and the time is running and everybody's praying and Buck gets them at the same time, staring at numbers, but maybe we can at least get through the general fund portion.
Alright, so Parks and Rec now?
Can I just ask a question on roads?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Since we're all using the roads apparently, can that become a non-ad valorem or item?
You mean like a separate assessment?
Yeah.
I don't know, the state, I mean, allows certain assessments, but I haven't seen a road one. Now, we see it in sales tax, like gas tax and things like that, but I don't know if the city can do that. I think the county's got the authority in reference to gas tax that would provide extra money for the roads itself. But again, that may be a question you can ask, you know, Scott on the legalese, because, you know, there's, we have the assessments, you know, for fire in terms of their, and the garbage, but I have not seen a city charging a road.
There's been a lot of discussion amongst, not in official things, but between different meetings between cities on, if the residents of the state vote to do away with the, property taxes, they zero property taxes in Florida, that
be put in operating somewhere like that, but I put under contracted services to take care of that. If you wanna go ahead and move on to the next page, you have shuffleboard. And that's one thing I want to speak about tonight. I had paint stuff on the outside taking care of that, 5,000. And then I put 15,000 for a septic tank and drain field, just an estimate. Now, it depends on what you wanna do this year. Do you wanna put money into the shuffleboard as far as getting the septic tank, or do you wanna wait till you decide what you're gonna do? Maybe expand the bathroom, because they're not ADA by no means, they're super small in there, so if they're gonna renovate it, maybe down the line to the museum, maybe you wait until then to do that. I mean, you have, the bathrooms are so, point one, they're along the inside, they're barely, they're not really bad. I put it in there because it's a need, if you wanna do anything with that, but that's up to you, something that you need to say, yes, we wanna go ahead and get the drain, but it may come in a different plate if you do something different, because the, cemetery people in land, the county takes care, tells you what you gotta have. Same thing with the bat, when they do the baseball field, they calculate how you have to have. So that's an area that you can cut out if you wish this year. Maybe at least a drain field in that, painting, we can paint it, you know, if you want. Still gotta keep maintenance up on it. At least outside maintenance to keep it nice, you know. It does need windows, modern windows put in, but again, that's another conversation, like a workshop, what do you wanna do with the shop? Do you wanna make it a museum, or what do you wanna do? That's a,
It needs to be brought up to standard.
yeah, and it needs to do electric, I mean, they've got an electric line running across the road to it. You know, we need to put electric on the building, it's actually like a trailer. It comes over the fees, it needs a lot of stuff to bring it up, and put a mini split in it, you know, have that air conditioner there, new windows and stuff like that, but you just need to know what you wanna do, you know, and how much you wanna spend on it, what you're gonna do. I just put that in there because that's a need. If you're gonna use it, or we leave it status till you decide what you wanna do. Still gotta paint it, you know, keep it from getting weathered, but, I mean, septic tanks, we haven't had every year since it went bad.
Do we make any revenue off of all of our parks, like renting out?
Only revenue we make is Melissa Park and Hopkins Hall.
Yeah. Doesn't cover anywhere near
No.
overall maintenance and stuff. What we charge is lighting.
Yeah, because looking at this, the first thing they thought about, say, way. No, this total contract cost of that is $20,000, use that as a figure. I was wondering, should we not do
has that facility in there that they can utilize, because they can bring their own food and set it up in there. You have the bar area right there for that, I'm not talking about liquor or anything, just talking about the bar area. But, yeah, for serving, you have the window right there that goes out to the side there. I mean, they put that beautiful area out there, you know, a little bit of cleaning up again, and it's right.
Historically, the CSA had been a focal point of the city between when they had the restaurants. It has an attraction, it drew people to the, city. You had the seniors who didn't want to go to Deltona or DeLand. So, we're missing an opportunity.
You could make a community center.
It-
Also that, I mean, that would be great to have a Lake Elm Community Center.
Well, I had a conversation
kinda
with
lost-
someone today, and it's just like Romans, possibly Romans would have been interested in having a larger building, maybe gone full service, you know, with their meals, and yet they took care of refurbishing and remodeling and everything themselves, which the same thing can happen at the CAC. Put up a rent sign, let someone come in, take a look at it.
It's just ideas, I mean, it's just throwing ideas out there, from watching and seeing what happens, where we're at, you know.
But for tonight, let's talk about the 20.
Right, yeah.
Do we
On the
leave that
shuffle
in
board, you wanna leave it in, or you wanna leave the 5,000 for painting and take out 15?
until we determine what we're gonna do with it? Nobody's using it now anyway, so.
Last night you mentioned something to Doug. We're gonna do internal painting, not painting, but don't need to do painting inside, do the outside painting.
You gotta keep the exterior
Thing.
from the weather.
Right, you gotta weatherize.
Yeah, you gotta keep it weather.
And the other thing is about the septic tank, is as long as the septic tank is not gonna be inundated, or what is it? You said it doesn't get used, that the gases will collect in it?
If you pump it,
If you pump
If
it
you
out,
pump it out, you let it set, as the vault starts deteriorating and whatever's left in there solidifies and it gets all
yeah, it must
messed
be.
up.
Yeah, well, it's a miss, I always thought that it's a missed opportunity, what it could be. It's not, I mean, we definitely got a deal. We had $56,000 building that we built and turned into whatever the solid, whatever it is now. And we had interest-free, 20 years. And then we were paying three installments.
That's on the CAC.
That was what the CSA,
Yeah.
once they forfeited the grant. I just looked at it differently.
Yeah, right. So the shuffleboard, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not doing anything with the building, redeveloping, then
yeah.
the
So I
second
mean,
will hold off
I
until
put
you
it in
have a
there,
vision of what you're
because
gonna do.
it's a need, but is it a need right now? If you're gonna do something with it, if not, I suggest taking it out and leaving the 5,000 in for exterior, you know, painting and stuff like that.
I'm glad we got the windows repaired, because that was ridiculous, that we got windows, there's no windows in the back windows. I'm sorry about that.
What about taking that, instead of doing the septic tank right away, taking that, money and upgrading the windows?
And that's a good thing if you want.
That's
The windows are gonna stay
That's
there.
one step to making the building more
Yeah.
usable.
Weatherwise, isn't it?
And the windows are gonna stay there regardless of that.
And we're just kind of passing through town, and we're just looking around at all of the
just so we can go through and go back, go back again, and go back on those. But if you go to the tennis courts, on contract service, we have fence repair of $800. We do have time to time repairs, gates and stuff that get tore up. So we have that in there for repairs. Tennis courts. And then if you move on to the equestrian center, you'll see, the chip replacement and the, that's not replacement. Contract service, the re-milling of all the edges to the road, that's constantly milling that road to the center when you come out, that's to take care of that. The well house roof hatch has to be replaced on that road in the center there, that's never happened. Roof put on, still, it's a little piece like this, and I wanna make it better, they remove the hatch, got the well service, to get that put in. Tank pump out is over there for the, bathrooms. We have brick repairs on the columns that need to be done, constantly they get knocked off, or come off, we have some right now that need to be done. You have tree replanting out there too, because we lost a bunch of trees in the back and area there, that during the hurricane, we still have trees dying right now out there. You have fence repairs for all the fences that go around it, do there, and we have the exercise trail needs to be rebuilt and rolled again from some of the hurricane damage we constantly, the weeds growing up in there and all that, to keep that trail with the asphalt runs, people walk on it. So you have that one there. We'll go through it if you want me to get back so you see it. I broke that in the playground so you know what we're doing in the park. Park's a big one. It's a real big one.
Are surveillances in our parks, up to par?
Only at Blake and the playground.
Would it be conceivable to put one in Melissa or to the other parks as a, I'll call it a deterrent, but it also is a, safety.
I have looked into it when they first put Melissa Park in service. I did have, J&J come out and put in a trailer, so it looked what it did, it's really nice, you got to put a sail on there, but, yeah, I have some old pictures on that. We had talked about doing that in that area to take care of the farms.
So Blake has cameras.
Blake has just on the playground itself there, not the tennis courts, anywhere else, it's just the equipment,
Where's the key?
not the boys and girls club.
From the Boys and Girls Club?
That's what we get.
Okay. We don't have it in the police department.
You have a, you can watch it. Place Park Playground, yeah, they monitor everybody. City Hall can monitor anybody that's on there. If you go to Royal Park, you have a septic tank pump out. You have the parking place buildings where we do all that now. If you look recently, we put in, bumpers and delineated parking there. We've got one more fence on the other side of it to put in for parking for trailers and boats. We've done a lot of work there. We've got some concrete work we're gonna do with sidewalks, but it has really enhanced the way if you go, if you've been down there, you'll see the parking area. Keeps people safe and that there, so we put in more, for the buildings and stuff, right, to take care of that area there in the outline.
I have a question on the car.
Okay.
Drivers,
Mm-hmm.
$4,200.
Yes, they haven't done that yet, they're one of the ones, believe it or not, they save us tremendously in paper towel products, we put in there, and the vandalism. They rip them off the wall, they open them up, they take every piece of paper towel they can, stuff in the toilet.
But $4,200.
Yeah, they're about $1,800 a piece for those.
Because when I saw this, and then I saw for another two, another car.
Yeah, we've had, that's the last part we do, I believe, now, and eventually I want to put them in all the city facilities.
What are these things made out of? Because I've been out on them, I'm still,
They're stainless and they're good ones. You have to have them out there, they're kind of vandal, not vandal proof. They're industrial. And that's a going, that's not a going rate for them. These are stainless so they don't wear out in the weather if they're outside.
well, I know some, believe it or not, of course, Amazon comes to my house every day. Literally commercial, this is what they got, you can look it up. Stainless steel, the elephant wind blow, that automatically, the air turns warm as your hands, are drying, for $135.
PVC or not. So if
But
you,
I was just kind of like, wow. So that's the only thing when a tree comes on.
and then we have, Melissa Park is Etern, and contracted services, we mostly have the septic tank pump out for there. You go on the Mason Park, same thing there, contracted, we do have the septic tank pump out, mill and roll the entrance, boat ramp rehab, we've been doing the boat ramp, keeping it up, making people can go into the boat there with rock and everything, that's to rehab that as we go. That might be the last thing we have is the ball field. We have the septic tank pump out, fence repairs, and light repairs, and I took out and put it on the CIP for the lights. We did the one set of lights, one pole of lights when Bad Lee was here, and we did the whole pole with LED. You use, not even, probably, I think it was like 2 sets of lights on there, they're energy efficient. Those lights out there we have now are so old, they cost so much to repair. So it's gonna be a big endeavor, so I took it off there, because something you have to do a CIP and figure out what you wanna do with that. But the cost savings of doing those versus what we have out there, the repairs are ridiculous what they cost to repair the valves and the lights. So I put one in there, I took it out, but we do still have light repairs because people still use it, they pay to use it all the time. And we do that, so hopefully we can get some of that changed out LEDs as we go.
Have we looked into, I know we've spoken about it before, solar, going off grid to solar?
I don't know if you can solar, I don't know what the solar industry is out there for those, because they use so much light to go out there, I don't know. I'd have to ask somebody. Years ago, we did have KDT come out there and they brought City Electric out there to do, an assessment of what it costs to do the poles and change them out and put modern lights, because lighting's changed so much now. But that's been probably 7, 8 years ago, so.
Technology's kind of moved along.
Yeah.
A 3x6 solar panel will generate enough power to recharge a battery over 12 hours. So if you're gonna run those lights, you need a bigger set of panels.
Well, actually, I was referring to solar in terms of the buildings that we have that are on the power company as opposed to putting them on solar. The bill for me is $30 a month because that is the minimum that they can charge me. And the bill is based on the usage of electricity. I'm a single person, I use less than $30. So they have to, the bill is $14, they'll bump it up to 30. And that's my bill. As opposed to, before I got it, I was budgeting $260 a month, budgeting. So the buildings that we have, I think I mentioned it once before about, you don't have to, because I think when we first got these slates, the roof, the tile roof, not knowing enough about it, I don't want to mess up my tile, but if you notice the Courtney, the Cherries, Courtney and Bill, his panels are on the ground, because he had slate writings, so. Again, we're reimagining, even the CSA, because the power bill and that, I don't remember what that like was. But that's integrating modern technology and something that could be a game changer for us.
Well, they do make solar panels now that are as thin as asphalt shingles for roofs. So when you're gonna re-roof your roof, you can have those put on and your whole roof becomes a solar panel. It's
basically seeing the same thing over and over, we just rehash it, but we gotta do something different, because you keep doing the same thing the same way, you get the same results. So,
Florida League of Cities is coming up in August, and that's where you get a lot of your vendors, you know.
Right.
A lot of paying to that, and there's usually companies in there, lighting companies that either talk about changing out, you know, LED or whatever, I'm not the electrician, I don't know either, but, you know, or solar or whatever, so maybe, you know, something's going to that this summer to get some information.
we got education on the solar, on not solar, but the lights when they were talking about the auto mall, because they had to have a different kind of light so they would not be overpowering, and so. Okay.
You want to just push through the end part from rec?
Yes, sir.
Do all mine?
Anything you want to cut out there, are you okay with that, as far as that goes?
Well, sounded good to me, thank you very much for this. Very helpful.
And then the last item for the general fund then is the Creative Arts Cafe, and I think we already did those changes.
Yeah, I did last night.
So we can make the adjustment and reduce that by $1,300.
Mhm.
All right?
Are we gonna push through all the way tonight, or?
Pardon?
Are we gonna push through all the way tonight, or how far do you think we're gonna go into the budget tonight?
Well, we've gone to the general fund, I mean, so right now you're sitting at 7.162, that's just what was discussed there. You know, we've got capital, but again, you know, if we use ARPA, that doesn't affect the village, so it's just a matter of, I guess, the commission philosophy. If you wanted to push through, or still do tomorrow,
Or we still do
well,
tomorrow?
I mean, if you didn't want to do tomorrow, we can push through tonight, I mean,
I just wanted to take a break, and we're
oh,
gonna push through.
okay. Well, I'll ask you guys that, because you're right, I mean, it is, we've been here, you know, for a bit, and we're 8:12, so we are 12 minutes after. I mean, I have no problem going on, but it's also a question of where people's brains are at, and what they want to do. I mean, we have at least, I'm not saying we're done, I mean, there's still time between now and July 10th, I mean, you know, in terms of there, but at least we've gotten through the general fund, and we know, with at least as of right now, unless some things come up and things change, we're below the 7.25. So maybe tomorrow, what I was looking at is we can go back through the capital, and then just have that last conversation again involving the COLA, you know, and where that's at, and, you know, I can plug in that number on that.
And by the way, if you could take a note or put a note together, I went back and was looking at the payroll again today, the payroll.
Yeah.
And again, this year Zach has put Karen on payroll, and she's actually contracted.
Oh, they do that because they take out her taxes and stuff like that out of it, so.
No, I was told they don't do that.
No, they do. No.
So they're just contracted.
It's
Yeah,
really.
but I thought that was part of her contract, that her taxes now be taken out, so she wouldn't have to do that form and.
She did.
Yeah, you guys did that last year, this year.
Okay.
Yeah, she gets a